Judas Priest is the first heavy metal band in the world, and it's 2018 and they have a new album out. That's just an amazing fact to itself. Breaking the what? Let's go break that law right now. This review consists of some myth-busting, some hard facts, basically a rant about some stupid comments that I've read online, followed by a track-by-track review, and then in the end I'm gonna score the album, as I do with every album that I review on Music Is Your Friend. I will also recommend which songs you should add to your playlist. This is gonna be a long one. And before I go on, I really have to point out that I'm here for you guys. I'm doing my best in treating you the way that I want to be treated as a subscriber or as a viewer. In order to do that, I prepare for every single video that I make. I write a full-on script. The script for this video alone is like 7 pages long and has over 4,500 words. That's essays worth of care, because I do care and you should also care and not take your music for granted. To further emphasize my care for you, I actually don't record these videos with like a stupid webcam and with a microphone that's made for Skyping. I use pro gear and I cut out all the ums and ahs, hence all of these jump cuts, and I level and process the audio so you can actually hear me without having to constantly adjust your volume. As I am aware that some of you are, only listening to me and some of you are watching me while you're doing something else, like doing some sort of manual labor with headphones on or actually taking a dump. I also firmly believe that there's a special place in hell for people that put out, videos that are too quiet. You know what videos I'm talking about, because some of them are basically too quiet to listen to them on your phone if there's any other source of noise in that same room, like a tap running or, the toilet flushing or something. I also use a custom musical background for every single one of my videos. This time, unfortunately, you're not gonna hear a new track. I'm recycling one of the older tracks that I used in my previous videos that kinda sounds like Priest, because the madly talented guy that makes music for every single one of my videos is now on a fishing trip. He is currently in one of the most beautiful places on this metal god-given earth. He's eating prosciutto and drinking wine and, having fun, the lucky bastard. But he will be back soon. So if you recognize my efforts in doing these videos, and if you're watching this video, just please click subscribe. The button is like right there. The thing is that I'm here to stay, and I'm gonna push out a whole bunch of, quality video content. On a personal note, it would be really nice, if I could make a living with just making these videos and contributing to all music fans and especially the metal community. So if you subscribe to my channel and click that little bell icon, you're actually helping me and you're bringing me closer to my goal. To all of you that already subscribed and that are watching my videos, I really want to say thanks, and it really means a lot to me. So let's get back to the video. Again, it's gonna be a long one, so please listen, because these videos take, a lot of effort, and the things that I talk about in these videos I feel are relevant. Now let's get to the hard facts. Judas Priest is the first heavy metal band in the universe. That's right, the first metal band in existence. Whoa, what? What about Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and Steppenwolf? Really? Steppenwolf? Sure, you can find elements of heavy metal in many different bands, and hell, you can even find heavy metal songs, but Judas Priest is, as far as I know, the first band that said that they play something which is beyond rock and roll and beyond hard rock, and they were the first to say that they play heavy metal. So they are the first metal band ever. They invented metal as a genre, and apart from that, they are one of the best bands of all time. Rob Halford, the current singer for Judas Priest, is one of the best singers of all time. And it's not just because of his, immense vocal range and his falsetto use. That range and all of these vocal techniques are just tools in his toolbox that he uses as a vocalist to be an amazing storyteller. See, he's one of the best singers in the world because he sings for the song. He always wants to portray lyrics, and he's always adding some drama in order for the song to work better. In fact, I claim there's only a handful of vocalists out there that are able to do the same thing on a level which he does it all the time. And chances are, if you're listening to some random death metal band or some metalcore band, that you've probably never experienced such, sense of drama or actually paid any attention to that fact. But facts are facts. Now, prior to the release of this album, I've seen and read some comments that I think are absolute garbage. So this is a rant that has to do with Priest, or a full-on Priest rant. First of all, people actually don't know how to rate things properly. They casually throw around these adjectives like amazing, brilliant, awesome, incredible, fantastic, phenomenal, every song is amazing, all killer, no filler, bullshit. It's bullshit. The fact is that they're setting the bar way too low. I mean, I get it, you're excited, so am I, but this isn't the best album of all time. It's just not, so please don't throw around these ridiculous constructs. Now listen, there's nothing that I would like more than for Priest to put out this amazing album with like all killers and no fillers. I mean, I love Priest. They're one of my favorite bands. And if you say bad things about Priest, I'm willing to fight you to prove you wrong. The next 5 minutes proves so. I'm really protective of, who they are as a band. But that being said, I'm actually not protective of who they are not. I mean, think about it. Imagine if you want to introduce someone to Priest. You can't play every single song of this album and say, this is the best song ever, because it's just not, and the person won't be impressed. You're basically lying and creating a false image of the band, so just stop it. If you're new to metal and new to Judas Priest, this might not be the album to get you into Priest. If you're new to metal and new to music in general and you're not really sure what to listen to, click the subscribe button, because I'm gonna make a whole barrage of videos that deal with that topic, where I will recommend songs that are, good for your well-being. Some people say that Priest without Tipton isn't Priest. Listen, I've seen them live and I know how to play, and to play Priest stuff and to play riffs like Painkiller, you actually need to practice and you need to maintain a certain level of playing. Now, a guy that's 70 years old and has Parkinson's can't be really up to the task. Now, I was really unpleasantly surprised when they announced that Glenn Tipton has Parkinson's and that he won't be playing with the band live. I made a whole video on that topic, and actually if you want to watch it, the link should be appearing on your screen right now. The thing is that guitar players, and actually Glenn, can make up his riffs while he's in his 90s, but playing those riffs is a different thing. I mean, check out Jason Becker. He was one of the best guitar players in the world, and now he is paralyzed with ALS, that disease where, people did the whole ice bucket challenge thing. Anyway, Jason Becker can't even speak, and he is still making music with his eyes. I really urge you to watch the documentary Not Dead Yet, that, describes the whole Jason Becker story. So there is a way to make music even if you can't actually play. Again, people that say that Priest without Tipton isn't Priest are probably the same people that said, Priest without Halford isn't Priest. Now, those people actually can't explain some of the best Priest songs like Cathedral Spires and Death Row, which were made by the band during Halford's absence. Next rant. Ripper. A good vocalist, but not for Priest. Being a Priest clone doesn't actually mean that you should be in Judas Priest. What does that even mean? Would Priest be better off with some guy that sings like Barry White? If you're described as a Halford clone, that basically means that you're a really good singer. So that's a compliment to any singer. And if you ask me, Ripper actually isn't a Halford clone. If you listen to the live stuff, you can actually hear some tributes to Halford here and there, but that's just normal. After all, you're singing Priest songs. But he actually has his own way of singing stuff. I guess to a certain extent you could call him a clone, as he sounds very similar to Rob in some of these parts, and he uses some of the same vocal techniques. But Ripper's, vocal DNA actually differs from project to project. If you listen to some of his songs that he recorded after he left Priest, you would never think that, that's Rob Halford singing those songs. You can clearly hear that it's Ripper. On top of the fact that his vocals are distinguishable from Rob's, they also differ in visuals. Ripper kind of has that working man vibe, like he's restoring old Harley somewhere around Akron, Ohio. He doesn't have tattoos on the side of his head. Ripper doesn't perform live like in a full-on leather-studded jacket like Halford does. Chances are that you're gonna see him, wearing jeans and, having a shirt or maybe like a leather jacket on top of the shirt, and that's about it. Even in Priest, if you check out the Live in London DVD, he isn't wearing like leather gloves and, leather chaps. He does have a glammed out jacket, but that's just for like the first song. And for the rest of the show, he just looks like the Ripper. The only thing that I would actually describe as, Ripper's trademark is his baseball cap, which oftentimes changes, and sometimes it's one of those like Monster Energy sponsored caps or something like that. So I think it's basically unfair to just call him a Halford clone. Because if you want Halford clones, you can actually find at least a handful of other famous singers that look or actually sound more like Halford. Or at least they're trying to sound more like Halford. Moving on. There is a popular channel in metal circles. That channel published a review of this latest Judas Priest album, and the reviewer said that when Halford left the band, that Priest hired metal everyman Tim Ripper Owens. Well, if you look at, Ripper's career from this perspective, from 2018, and look at, all of the things that he's done during the years since he left Priest, I guess you could call him a metal everyman. He became one of those metal hired guns, and that's a perfectly legitimate way to run your career. But when he joined Priest, as far as stardom goes, he was basically nobody. He wasn't a metal everyman. He was just a guy who sang his ass off for like 10 years, sold office supplies, and then, he got that chance to become great. And he used it. He worked his ass off for like the last 20 years, so kudos to Ripper. The reviewer also said something else which kinda bothered me, and I quote, "Jugulator and Demolition, which despite having a couple of bangers, were not very well received and have not aged very well." What the fuck does that even mean? Not being well received? I think it's really unfair to pin the reception part on Ripper. The thing is that Halford left and he was out of the equation. The band actually put out their greatest album ever, and when I say that, I mean it's not easy to follow that album, like what's gonna be the follow-up to that album? Are you gonna make another Painkiller? I kinda doubt it. After Painkiller, even if they put out like an amazing album, it would still fade in comparison to Painkiller, because Painkiller is that good. And yeah, Judas Priest lost some fans along the way, but that also wasn't kinda Ripper's fault. And I think it's really unfair to just say, the albums weren't received very well, and then just like move on like nothing happened. Jugulator came out in the mid-90s. That period when grunge hit and basically decimated the metal fans that were visiting the shows? That same era where kids were still mourning, the death of Kurt Cobain. That time prior to MP3s when record companies were doing really great and they were dictating what's gonna sell and what's not gonna sell. That time where if you weren't grunge, you basically couldn't get a record deal. And if you already had a record deal, the record company actually wouldn't back you unless you do a grungy album. That period when the record companies would actually shelve bands that had, big successful record deals, and they just wouldn't publish any of their music. They wouldn't back them. That time when everybody who was and wasn't metal basically cut their hair. That time when even AOR musicians, that adult-oriented rock, when guys like Michael Bolton changed their image, cut their hair and ditch that rock element of their AOR music. So they would actually like fire the guitar player or basically make him play with less distortion, and they would, bump up the keyboards more in the mix. So I think it's really unfair to correlate, the fact that metal was in the dumps anyway and that Ripper joined Priest. To be fair, if anything, Ripper was one of the guys that helped put metal back on the map. And now for that, not aged very well. I mean, what does that even mean? It is true that they don't perform songs from that album live, but they could perform these songs, and actually fans want to hear them. People that listen to Iron Maiden actually bitched about Blaze songs as well. But then Bruce came back in the band and they started performing these songs, The Klansman, Sign of the Cross, and Lord of the Flies. If Maiden didn't perform these songs live, I'm guessing that these same people would say that those songs didn't age well. But considering they did play them live and they made, the DVDs, the Rock and Rio DVD, Death on the Road DVD. Now they aged well. So if Priest actually played these songs live, I'm guessing that these same people would say, oh, these songs aged very well. So I think that's also very unfair. And to tell you the truth, if Halford just started singing one-on-one, for example, on one of these concerts, I mean, people would mosh, people would really dig that music because it's a good song. I've also heard that some people mention the term Painkiller elitists, these pejorative comments that said that, some fans would only be satisfied if Priest had a time machine and, just went back in time and made another Painkiller album. I mean, what the fuck are you saying? Are you that flipping ignorant? I already spoke about Painkiller in a different video, and the link for that video is gonna pop up somewhere on your screen right now. But I'm gonna say something new here. Plain and simple, Painkiller is one of the best albums ever. On top of that, it's one of the most aggressive albums ever. What about death metal? Well, yeah, but if you sing like you're the Cookie Monster, that doesn't actually make you aggressive. Painkiller is the result when your band is active for 20 years and you're constantly touring and you form the genre, and the pinnacle of all that is Painkiller. Painkiller is also a statement. A person that's not that into music actually couldn't differentiate Judas Priest from bands like Poison. So Painkiller was that reaction album that basically separated, the Judas Priest fans from, the Poison fans. Even a deaf man could, clearly differentiate songs like Painkiller from songs like Every Rose Has Its Thorn. Painkiller was too tough for those people. Everything worked on that album. The drums were great. I mean, they were so much heavier than anything they played in the 80s. The guitar riffs are actually more creative, and if you wanted to play them, you needed to practice more. The solos weren't blues-based, and they used more scales. The vocals were just unforgiving, and the lyrics were sang with a vigor that we have never heard before. Keep in mind that 2 years prior to that, Judas Priest actually covered Johnny B. Good. Now, Painkiller, the song, is basically impossible to perform live the way it was performed on the record, because the song starts with this beautiful drum section. Actually, the drummer dictates the tempo of the song, and normally it's played a lot faster than it's played on the record. That faster tempo actually, presents a whole slew of problems later on in the track. The lead guitar parts are also notoriously hard to play right, especially, that sweeping part before the solo, so all of that stuff. In that section, there are no drums to actually keep you in tempo while you're playing that lead. The rest of the band actually needs to look at the drummer because, they need their cue in order for everyone to start playing at the same time. But during that time, the lead guitar player is front and center on the stage, looking at the crowd or looking at his fretboard, and he can't look at the drummer. So it's really hard for a band to nail that part. The vocals present a challenge for basically every singer ever, and only a handful of singers can sing it with the needed power in order for that song to sound good. When that song starts, the singer can only hope for the best. It's pretty much impossible to sing that song and look dignified. If you're singing Painkiller, I guarantee that you won't be jumping around and, doing all sorts of stage acrobatics. People will see that you're struggling. Can you imagine having that song within a Judas Priest set? A 2-hour set of constant high notes. Where are you gonna put a song like Painkiller? You could probably put it in the beginning of your set and you can then rape your vocal cords, and then the rest of the set is gonna sound like shit. Or you can put it in the back of the set. You just sang 2 hours of Judas Priest and all of those high notes. And now you're throwing Painkiller at your throat. It's already screwed up as it is. Judas Priest has some really good songs, and Painkiller has 10 of them on one album. So yeah, it's not hard to be a Painkiller elitist, but I don't think that, Priest will ever top Painkiller. And even if the band had a time machine, I'm guessing they couldn't go back in time and make, Painkiller 2, because it doesn't make any sense. They weren't in that mindset anymore. Oh, but some of that, Halford solo work actually came pretty close. Much closer than other Judas Priest albums. And another thing that I want to tackle is basically, fuck your reaction videos. They don't serve any purpose. And to be frank, I'm talking about, most reaction videos. Some of them are interesting because, having 5-year-old kids listening to Iron Maiden I mean, I want to see that. But I don't want to see a guy listening to Judas Priest on laptop speakers and, doing so he can talk over the music. A bunch of potheads with ADD looking at their stupid vegan laptop, showing off their Pokemon tattoos. I mean, go fuck yourselves. Oh, and you're gonna watch a music video and you're gonna rate the song by actually talking about the quality of 3D modeling within that music video. You're listening to the song, I mean, go fuck yourselves. Oh, and you're gonna rate a song by how fast are you gonna hear the riff. I mean, what are you, 12? Go fuck yourself, man. Not everything in life is testosterone driven. Man, some of these guys that film those stupid reaction videos, I mean, I've seen more brains and, more heart in 6-year-olds that appear on those Kids React videos. Some of these clowns actually stop a song like 10 times mid-play. I mean, that's the worst thing that you can do to a song. Why would you do that? So you can talk shit and, ask rhetorical questions? What's the purpose of that? What's your purpose in life? And some of these clowns that filmed the reaction video actually watched a video with Ripper and they were looking at it on their stupid vegan laptop, and when Ripper appeared, they stopped the video and they said, "That's Mark Wahlberg, I'm not gonna see that." You idiots. That statement is so wrong on so many levels that I don't even see a point of dismantling that statement. So I'm just gonna say that these comments actually make you an ignorant cunt. And these stupid reaction videos actually, make Banger TV lose that smidgen of credibility that they had when they weren't making stupid reaction videos. Don't make reaction videos. They make 0 sense. 0. I've also seen many other idiots online that only propagate these myths that they've heard from some bullshit TV host. You have a brain. Use it. Think for yourselves. Listen to the songs by yourself and you be the judge. And don't listen to music on those bullshit laptop speakers. Get a pair of decent speakers. Actually, I'm gonna film a video about decent speakers in the following month, so you know what to buy, so you don't buy some bullshit like Beats by Dr. Dre, hyped up product that's basically made for the consumer market and not for people that want to listen to music. Let's continue with the comments. I saw some people that said, there are only 2 original members left in Priest and that's not Priest. You know what, you're just wrong. That original lineup bullshit is also wrong. Are you aware that Priest had a singer before Halford? So actually Halford isn't the original member of the band. Are you aware that Judas Priest also had a different bass player? So that would mean that even Ian Hill, who played on every single Judas Priest release, isn't the original bass player. If you really want to nitpick, I mean, every single one of these members that you thought they were original members are not original members. Not Glenn, not KK, not Ian, not Scott Travis, not Rob Halford. Don't believe me? Google it. You've probably never even heard of these other guys. So you can see why I say that original lineup bullshit is wrong, because it is wrong. Do you think that the guys from the original band could ever rise to what Judas Priest is right now? I mean, they couldn't. So just stop it with that original lineup bullshit. If you want to make beautiful music, you need to be creative, you need to put in the effort, and you need to get the right people involved in the project, and that's about it. And the name of your project is also quite irrelevant, because the only thing that matters are the songs. The songs will live on even after the band is long gone. Another proof of why original lineup bullshit is wrong lies in the fact that Judas Priest had 8 drummers. 8. So unless you're the first guy that was in the band, that's not an original lineup. So what does that original lineup term even mean? You could argue that Simon Phillips was technically the best drummer that ever played in Priest. But I don't think that he was the best drummer for Priest. I don't care much about Dave Holland's playing, and actually I think that Les Binks was a far superior drummer than Dave Holland. Scott Travis has been with the band for the last 30 years. You can't name 10 bands that were around for 30 years, let alone a drummer who was in a band for 30 years and the band is still actively playing. Furthermore, I think that Scott Travis is the best drummer for Judas Priest. And it's not just because he played that, famous intro for Painkiller. Scott has many other qualities, and, prior to joining Priest, he actually played with, Paul Gilbert, and it's not really easy to follow Paul. And on top of that, Scott actually played on more than 80 Judas Priest songs. 80. I've also seen some mean comments saying that Judas Priest became a Halford solo band. That's most certainly not the case. I've listened to every single record that Halford put out, and trust me, this new album doesn't sound like a Halford record. It sounds like a Priest record. Furthermore, I refuse to overlook nasty comments about Richie Faulkner. He dedicated his career to Judas Priest. He's a great guitar player, and actually now he's kind of the public face of Judas Priest, similar to what Jason was in Metallica back in the day. And I won't even comment on KK versus Richie. I mean, Richie didn't push anybody out of the band. He was just a man for the job when Judas Priest lost a member. Every time when Judas Priest plays a song that was written by KK, he gets a certain amount of money. It's the same with everybody who wrote stuff for Priest. And it just dawned on me that, Richie was keeping quiet about Glenn's Parkinson's for all these years. That's really cool, man. I mean, can you imagine being a guitar player and, Glenn Tipton, one of the guitar greats, just asking you, yeah, listen, my arms are not cooperating, so can you just please play this riff for me on this record? I mean, is there a greater honor than that? With Glenn stepping down, why didn't they just invite KK back in the band? Well, I don't actually think that it would work from a technical standpoint. See, Richie played KK's parts for many years now, so if you bring KK back to the picture, I mean, Richie would actually be playing Glenn's parts. So KK would just play his old parts. So that would mean that KK would actually have to come in the band and learn all of these new songs that he wasn't a part of. And then Richie would actually have to learn all of Glenn's parts and not fuck up during a live show. That's really complicated. And when you take into account all of the leads, that's a pretty demanding task. It would be a lot easier if you just had a good guitar player that could, come in and learn all of these parts and just play them live. And Andy Sneap is the man for the job. I mean, he was present during all of the recording. He's really old school. I mean, he is a producer, but he is a really good guitar player. And actually, most of you are not familiar with his work because his bands are kind of low-key, but I've known about him for a long time because I'm into music production and he's a really good mixer, engineer, and producer. He actually produced Blaze Bayley's Blood and Belief album, which is an overlooked album, and I really advise you to listen to it. He's also known for Megadeth's United Abominations and for a whole slew of other producing work or mixing work for bands like Opeth, Nevermore, Testament, Obituary, Machine Head, Saxon, Killswitch Engage, Arch Enemy, and so on. And that's why Priest hired him, and he was there for all of the guitar work, and he just seems like a perfect fit. Anyway, that kind of concludes my rants, and I really want to get into the songs, and there is a lot of songs in this album. There are 14 tracks on the album, but actually there are 13 songs because one of these tracks is just a minute-long intro. That's still an insane amount of songs for a band where, members are 70 years old. You really can't say that they're getting lazy. They're packing a lot of firepower on this album. And before I continue, I just want to say that the level of lyricism on this album is, decent. But that's normal for Priest, so I'm not gonna comment on that fact as much during the track-by-track review. The first song on the album is the title track and it's called Firepower. It's a decent song, but Priests are giants, and we like them because they're never afraid, to take on a challenge. This song isn't too challenging, so it's actually not one of my favorites. To be fair, I like some elements of the song, and I like the fact that, Scott Travis can actually practice his double kick drum patterns. But with Priest, I'm looking for something more, because a lot of bands can actually make a song similar to this one. I mean, just Google Sean Peck. Lightning Strike. I've already actually reviewed this song in a separate video, and the link for that video is gonna appear on your screen right about now. Evil Never Dies. This one smells of the South, son. You heard all of this before. I can even find some Alice Cooper elements in this one. The drama, which I spoke about earlier in this video, is really prominent in this song, especially, in the middle part. I think that this song is better than the title track, and the chorus riff sounds really powerful, like somebody's loading up a shotgun. Never the heroes. This is a song that was released as a single a week ago. It's also a song where you can hear Halford's vocal drama. I really like this song. This is a more dynamic song because the guitars actually stop playing in the verses and you can hear some clean chords, but the rest of the song is just a usual, riff slugfest, but with some really cool parts. You're gonna hear some cool, smart production interventions in this song, and actually I would attribute those interventions to Tom Allen, the producer, without actually knowing if he was responsible for making these production interventions. But yeah, these pauses are like really cool. From a production standpoint, I've been waiting for a long time for Priest to sound as powerful as they sound on this record. I just can't wait for really torture the shit out of my car stereo and educate all passengers and educate other drivers that are just, waiting alongside me for the light to turn green, and especially educating innocent bystanders. Necromancer. As soon as I asked myself, will I hear a riff that sounds like Painkiller on this record? And there it is. I like the riffs, the verses are pretty cool, the bridge is also solid, but the chorus could be a little bit better. Again, listen to how Halford paints the picture of the necromancer within the chorus. In the middle of the song you can hear a friendly exchange of guitar solos, and you could actually tell that Glenn Tipton is playing one of these guitars. Children of the sun. Check out the cool vocal stab in the second chorus when he sings the word sun. The vocal parts are really cool throughout this whole song. The slow part in the middle is also quite good. The bass is also quite nice, and you can actually tell that Ian Hill has a cool bass sound throughout this whole album. Scott Travis also has some nice touches with the cymbals and the chimes. Richie Faulkner is also holding his own in these songs, and his pop action shotgun riffing is actually really solid. This song actually sounds like it came from the Nostradamus album. I also want to point out the part after the solo where Halford sings the word mountains. Listen to these brilliant pauses that I would also attribute to Tom Allen. I'm really looking forward to hearing this song performed live, because live I'm guessing that these pauses are gonna be even more prominent because there won't be any guitar dive bombing and all of these delays flying around. So yeah, this is a good track. The track Guardians is just a 1-minute intro to the song Rising from Ruins. And we have a winner, ladies and gentlemen. This is the one. This is by far the best song on the album. The riff sounds like it was played by a Browning machine gun. The very inspired sounding verses are actually played with a clean guitar sound and have these chords layered underneath the vocals that actually sound like that part in Victim of Changes before that epic scream. The drums also have these hi-hat and bass drum fills, which complement the often overlooked role of the bass player Ian Hill. Ian just plays to the song and gets the job done. The chorus has a really, really good vocal melody. The solos and the rest of the lead guitar parts actually sound really inspired. This is one of those songs that really unites people. I mean, it has that feeling of the song United from British Steel, but this one has brass balls and a whole arsenal of weapons and just pure horsepower. And keep in mind, almost 40 years after British Steel hit the market. This song is really an anthem, and it has more glory that any man needs. But this is what I want from Priest. This is a song which Sabaton and the like can't actually make. This song is living proof that Judas Priest is not some relic from the 70s and the 80s, but they are still one of the best bands in the world. They don't rest on their laurels. They're still the leaders in the field of metal, which basically makes them undefeated champions in the field of their own making. And that's fucking amazing. Flamethrower is actually a pretty boring tongue-in-cheek song. The middle part has some cool vocal panning, and actually I like some of Halford's vocal stabs that happen within the song, but there isn't much to listen to in this one. Well, except for the way that Halford says flamethrower. That stuff just brings a smile to my face, Spectre. There are many Priest songs that sound really similar to this song. I really like Richie's guitar interventions in the chorus and the middle part. The solo even sounds neoclassical to a certain extent. This is a cool tune, but it's not something that I actually aspire to. Traitor's Gate. As soon as you hear the name of the song, you're interested. But unfortunately, the title actually doesn't reflect the song quality. I like the lyrics, but the rest of the song sounds like just any random Sabaton song. I do like that you can often hear the bass playing in this song, but there are some parts of the song, including the choruses, that sound really uninspired. Another thing that deters me from this song is the fact that Halford's screams actually don't sound good in this song. No Surrender. Again, Sabaton can make this chorus. And although I don't dislike this song, but I think that we can all agree that Priest can do a lot better. It's a short song and it can be played live with ease, but if they decide to shelve the song, I think it would be a good business move to just kind of sell the rights for the song to Five Finger Death Punch. I think it would be also beneficial to Five Finger Death Punch because this song sounds much better than some of their other material, and I think that this song sounds like it should be alongside songs like Lift Me Up, the Five Finger Death Punch song where Halford was the guest vocalist. If you haven't, I really advise you to listen to that song because I think that the vocal contrast between Rob Halford and Ivan Moody is actually quite cool. Lone Wolf. This song sounds like an obscure Halford solo tune, but with a heavy blues influence. It's interesting, but I'm really not a huge fan of these kind of songs. Sea of Red. I think that this is a good song. You can hear Halford sing like he did in the 70s or on Nostradamus. This is more than a song, this is a story. And that really reminds me of, the older Judas Priest songs. You can hear some of that color of old in Halford's vocals. Just listen to the song Progress and over time you will understand why this musical journey actually scores quite high on my list. So listen to this song. And that's it, so here's my verdict. Rising from Ruins is definitely the best song on the album. Other good songs are Sea of Red, Children of the Sun, and Never the Heroes. If Judas Priest actually did some self-censorship, I think that this album would score even higher. But their career is soon coming to an end, so what's the point in, storing songs for future projects? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. On my list, this album actually scored alongside with British Steel and Sad Wings of Destiny. To my surprise, it actually scored underneath Redeemer of Souls, but this is still a really good album. I mean, the band hired their old producer from the 80s to keep things in check, and judging by the songs, he actually did okay because this album actually ranks in the middle of the best and the worst album that he has produced for Judas Priest. Not to blow my own horn, but if I was the producer on this album, I would definitely cut out some parts of this album to make it a more compact unit. On top of that, I would try to improve some other parts, and in the end, I think that this album would score more than 37 out of 100. Now keep in mind, 37 out of 100 is really not a bad score. It's a decent score, especially for a band that's in their 70s. Keep in mind that a score of 37 out of 100 is a really good score for an album because most albums consist of one or two hits and the rest are basically, just filler songs that nobody actually wants to listen to. And most of these albums actually score under 20. Yeah, so anyway, this is it. Please subscribe. Hit that bell notification icon. The link for buying the album is down below, and I hope to see you somewhere on the road. Me and Albert both. Adios, Metal Maniacs.